Welcome to Building Programs, Building Brains, Bridges to STEM Learning for grades kindergarten through 8. This training is brought to you by BOSNet, Build the Out of School Time Network, and the UMass Boston College of Education and Human Development, with support from the Department of Early Education and Care in Massachusetts. And brain building is in progress. You'll see 4 logos on this slide. If you hover your mouse over each logo, you'll get a website that you can go to get more information about BOSNet, UMass Boston, brain building, or the Department of Early Education and Care. This is Interactive Presentation 3, STEM in the Standards. STEM, or Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, appear in a variety of different standards and best practices around Massachusetts for assuring program and instructional quality. So aligning to those standards makes a really big difference to assuring that the teaching and learning going on in your program is high quality, as well as helping you to align and connect with other elements of the mixed delivery education system here in the state. Some of the places that we're going to take a look at where STEM shows up in standards. The first is QRIS, or the Quality Rating Improvement System. This is a Department of Early Education and Care tool for measuring different tiers or levels of program quality across all areas of a program, including instructional design and curriculum. So the QRIS has the QRIS standards themselves, and then it also has a number of required assessment tools. And for school-age programs, 2 of the tools that you have to use in the QRIS are the APT tool, which is the Assessment of After-School Program Practices tool, and the SACRS, which is the School Age Care Environment Rating Scale. So that's QRIS. The next set of standards that we're going to take a look at is the Massachusetts Curriculum Frameworks. The curriculum frameworks are the structures that define the competencies that children need to learn at each grade level across different topics for Massachusetts public schools. So the curriculum frameworks guide what specifically the kids should know at each grade or at each age. And we're going to look at the mathematics curriculum frameworks and the STE curriculum frameworks, which cover science, technology, and engineering. Mathematics, because it's so foundational, like we talked about earlier, gets its own set of curriculum frameworks. We're also going to look at how STEM connects to UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, and we'll take a brief look at how STEM aligns with thematic curriculum and project-based learning as well. STEM appears in 3 places in the Massachusetts QRIS standards for school-age programs. And the way that standards are labeled is that they have a number and a letter, which indicates which category or section in the QRIS we're looking at, then a dot, then what level we're talking about, and then a dot, and then which standard within that category for that level is the last piece. So first is Category 1A for Level 2. The first standard in Category 1A at Level 2 is a standard which says that the daily schedule has to include activities that promote numeracy. Now, numeracy means comfort and fluency with numbers and with the types of things you need to do with numbers. It's sort of a similar term to literacy, but referring to numbers and math-based skills. The second place in the QRIS standards where we see STEM appearing is the statement also in Category 1A Curriculum and Learning, but at Level 4, in the first standard for Level 4, the standards state that programs need to provide students with access to tutors in subjects including math and science. So when you're at a Level 2, or sort of earlier in the QRIS process, you need to make sure your schedule includes activities that promote skills that are math-based. And then as you're further along and you're at your Level 4, you need to make sure that the kids actually have access to tutors that can help them with their math and science. The third place in the QRIS standards where we see STEM arising is in Category 4A, which is in the Family and Community Engagement section. And this is for Level 3. And it's the 4th standard in Category 4A for Level 3. And this standard states that programs need to communicate with schools to make sure that the kids are getting consistent instruction from school to after school, and also they need to support including strategies for teaching mathematics. So the schools can give that support, but only if the communication between programs and schools is strong. In other words, they want to make sure that there's alignment of the way that the kids are being taught in the schools and the homework help that they're receiving. Now, it is important to note that although these standards are the only places in the QRIS standards where STEM is mentioned, the APT tool and the SACRS tool, which are required assessments for QRIS, both have more places where they talk in more detail about how STEM is required to be used in a program. APT, or the Assessment of After-School Program Practices tool, has two sections that are required by QRS, the APT-O and the APT-Q. The APT-O, or the Academic Skill Building section, asks a number of questions about how the program supports academic skill building, and some of those questions include staff roles in making available, as well as youth involvement in a number of different things, including mathematical communication, mathematical reasoning, mathematical problem solving, and then there are a few questions that ask about science specifically. So that is one of the places where some STEM elements will appear in the APT tool, which again is one of the QRIS required assessments. And then the APT-Q has also got two questions that relate to STEM topics. APT-Q question 2D asks how frequently youth participate in enrichment activities in science, and 2E asks how frequently youth participate in enrichment activities in math. SACRS, or School Age Care Environment Rating Scale, is a program quality assessment required by QRIS that takes a look at the bigger picture of program quality across a number of different subscales, and the questions are called items. So there are 3 different items in the SACRS that are involved with STEM. And the first is item 21, blocks and construction. So in each item, there are indicators, which are specific yes-no questions, and how you answer those yes-no questions determines how you score on that item. So in the blocks and construction item, there are a variety of these indicators or questions about construction materials and tools and space, as well as the kids being given free time to do construction projects, access to carpentry, and a variety of different types of materials like wood and glue, so that they can explore and experiment with construction. All of this aligns with learning goals around engineering. Item 24, math and reasoning activities, has indicators that ask a variety of different questions about opportunities that the kids might have, encouragement that they might receive from adults, and support that they're given to help them engage in math and reasoning games and activities. And then item number 25, science and nature activities, has a number of indicators under that item that ask questions about opportunities and encouragement and support that are provided to the kids for engaging in science and nature games and activities, and also for that one, field trips. So all of these items fall under the activities subscale of the SACRS. The Massachusetts Curriculum Frameworks, which are sometimes abbreviated MA-CF, are the standards that determine what competencies a child needs to have at each grade level in Massachusetts public schools. So the ELA and math curriculum frameworks are also often referred to as Common Core because the new Massachusetts curriculum frameworks for ELA and math as of 2011 are drawn from the United States Common Core standards. Massachusetts added like another layer of sort of requirements or quality on top of the National Common Core, but the foundation is from the Common Core. So often you'll hear curriculum frameworks and Common Core used interchangeably, but that's the deal with that. So the curriculum frameworks that are relevant to STEM, there's two sets. There's the mathematics curriculum frameworks, and the new math curriculum frameworks in Massachusetts were approved in 2011. And then there's the STE curriculum frameworks, and officially we're still on the 2006 STE curriculum frameworks. They're working on new curriculum frameworks for STE. The 2013-2014 school year, which is this year, is the year that they're doing development, and I believe they're hoping to roll them out in the next year or two. So that's in process right now, but in the meantime, the official ones are the 2006 ones. So we're just going to take a look at how to understand and make use of those. There are PTA guides which were created for the ELA and math curriculum frameworks that summarize learning requirements for each grade. So the PTA guides have some good information about math requirements. That's a really nice place to start if you're trying to understand some of the math curriculum frameworks requirements. The math and STE standards for the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks are organized similarly, with the exception that in the math curriculum frameworks and in the draft for the new STE curriculum frameworks, the standards are organized first by grade. So you look up first the grade of the child or group of children that you work with, and then within grades you read the topic areas or the strands that appear within those. In the current STE curriculum frameworks, for science, technology, and engineering, the standards are organized first by topics and then by grades. So now we're going to take a look at an example of a page from the Massachusetts curriculum framework. So these are the new curriculum frameworks for math, just to sort of explore how you can make use of the curriculum frameworks in like activity and lesson planning. First, be aware that back in the course room where you were when you clicked to watch this presentation in the first place, you'll find links to both the current, the latest math curriculum frameworks, the current STE curriculum frameworks, which are those 2006 frameworks, and then also a link to the draft curriculum frameworks for STE that they're working on now. And there will also be a link to those PTA guides that I mentioned to you a moment ago. The PTA guides sort of boil down by grade what each grade teaches in a way that's meant to be easily understandable to parents. So it's a great way to get an overview of the kinds of things that the children you work with should be learning by grade level. So we have this page in front of us. It's like nearly the top half of a page of the math curriculum framework standards for grade 4. So the way that you understand and use this tool, first you're going to look at the table of contents, which is, I don't have that for you to look at here, but it's fairly straightforward. It's right at the beginning of the document, like a table of contents is. And when you look at it, you'll see that a bunch of different grades are listed. So for each grade, there's a different page number. You'll go to the page for the grade that you're interested in, and at the front there will be some general information about that grade. Definitely read that. It's really, really useful. So you're going to look up the grade or grades that are in your classroom or group, and first read those summary information, because it's very, very useful stuff. Then you're going to continue forward, and you'll see that there are content standards, and that tells you specifics about what that grade of child should be learning. So pick the topic or the strand that is what you want to work on in your activity. And then once you look under that topic or strand, you'll see that there are specific standards. They're items. They're numbered. And choose one of those. And then build your activity to make sure that you're teaching or practicing and reinforcing the skill or skills described in that standard. And make sure that on your lesson plan you label what the alignment is, what the standard is that you're reinforcing or teaching in your activity. And the way that you get that label is that first you're going to start by the number for the grade that you're in, and you can see that's the first part of the little code in the upper right hand corner here. that number, and then there's a dot or a period after that. And following that dot or period, there's an abbreviation in letters. Usually it's 1 to 3 letters long. This one you can see is Operations in Algebraic Thinking, and the abbreviation is OA. And that lets you know what topic area, what strand you're working on. And then there's going to be another dot or period, and then you have the actual item number. So in the example that we're looking at, if you were working on creating an activity for that aligns to the 4th grade standard in Operations and Algebraic Thinking for solving multi-step word problems that are posed with whole numbers and that have whole number answers, and that use the 4 operations, including problems in which remainders must be interpreted. If that's what you're working on, then that would be standard number 3. So your code would be 4.OA.3, and that's how you would label or reference what standard you aligned to in your lesson plan. UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, is a best practice for how to make sure that the activities or lessons that you're doing with kids empower every child to sort of play to their strengths, to be able to access the information and the learning through their own learning styles, and to have their own learning needs met, because every child has different strengths and different learning needs and different styles of learning. The first of the 3 strategies for UDL is representation. And representation focuses on making sure that you're giving information to kids in a lot of different formats and through a lot of different types of media, making sure that they have visual, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic experiences. They're moving around, they're trying stuff, they're seeing stuff, hearing stuff, looking on the internet, looking in newspapers, looking at the world, and learning through so many different approaches, as many as possible. The second is action and expression. Action and expression is a strategy that makes sure that kids are having a variety of different opportunities and a variety of different ways that they can try out what they're learning about. So sort of putting it into their life, letting them put it into action, and letting them express themselves through experiencing and exploring the learning that they're gaining. And the third strategy is called engagement, and it focuses on making sure that kids get as many different choices as possible of different ways that they can connect the learning with their own personal interests, as well as letting them experience autonomy, letting them kind of take it to their own place and apply it in their own ways. The other best practice that we're going to take a brief look at is thematic curriculum and project-based learning. We're actually going to look more closely at thematic curriculum and project-based learning a little bit later in the course together. But thematic curriculum and project-based learning are tools that align to the Universal Design for Learning. They help us to make sure that all those elements are present in our lesson planning. And they also enhance the STEM learning that happens, especially for kids who are experiencing barriers, which you'll remember, I'm sure, we talked about a little earlier in the course. And we focused especially on girls, children of different ages, non-native speakers of English, and children who had a variety of different learning needs. So later in the course, we'll look at how you can use thematic curriculum and project-based learning to help overcome those barriers and to engage in universal design for learning and make sure that you're succeeding in meeting all the different types of standards we've looked at, aligning to the curriculum frameworks, and supporting every child in their learning. Now it's time to practice what we've learned. So answer the following question and click Submit when you think you've got the answer correct. Check all that apply. Which of the following are QRIS assessments?